Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life. Once again, this week I have spiritual healer and metaphysical teacher, RJ Spina, with us. It's a fascinating conversation. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend, and welcome, RJ.
Thank you for having me, Linda. It's my pleasure.
Well, RJ, I have been so excited to have you on the podcast because your healing story is amazing. Can you give us a rundown on what happened to you and what condition you were in that you needed to heal from?
April 23rd, 2016, I became permanently, air quotes, I became permanently paralyzed from the chest down. I was diagnosed with sepsis. I was told I would not live another 48 hours. I was additionally diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's autoimmune disease, hypothyroidism, pancreatitis, thyroiditis, and I was also experiencing something called autonomic dysreflexia, which affects your autonomic system, and paraplegics and quadriplegics who have an injury above T6, and the majority of my injury to my spine, where the infection got in and crushed it, was T7 and T8. So autonomic dysreflexia affects your heart rate, your pulse, your breathing, and your body temperature. And in effect, there's no longer any system controlling it. So your pulse can completely drop. You literally stop breathing. All the things that run automatically stop running automatically. And paraplegics and quadriplegics often die from complications. You can have an aneurysm, a stroke, you can slip into a coma. So all those things were going on. I was rushed into emergency life-saving surgery where they performed something called a laminectomy. This is where they literally scrape off the infection. It was literally off my spine. And I was told that, healing is absolutely impossible. Once you're paralyzed, you're paralyzed. You can see this all on a video on the homepage of my website. You can see it all. Now, I was given a great challenge. I should really say I gave myself a great challenge, but I think what's really most interesting about that is not that how sick I was and that my body was destroyed, but Linda, what happened is that when I woke up from emergency life-saving surgery, I literally awakened into authentic cosmic consciousness, and I began explaining right there to the ICU nurse that I would put myself back together, I would walk, I would heal myself, and I explained in great detail the metaphysics behind self-healing as well as self-realization. I outlined the whole thing. In fact, I even said that in 100 days, I would walk unassisted. And this is all documented. You can watch the video. In exactly 100 days, I walked unassisted, and all of those conditions have been resolved.
Amazing story, like absolutely amazing. So you have no idea really what triggered that kind of spontaneous awakening that connected you to the intelligence that essentially brought you the awareness of exactly what you needed to do to heal.
What we should probably look at or could look at, Linda, is that even as a little kid, I used to just leave my body, or what we call astral projection. So this was totally normal for me. I would just sit down and relax, and without any effort or trying, or certainly without any training, my consciousness or my sentience, what people call the soul, would literally just be outside of my body, and I would be looking at my body. And sometimes it'd be right next to me, sometimes I'd be above, sometimes I would be on the roof of my parents' house. So this was totally, totally normal for me. And as a kid, I started to realize that my consciousness or my sentience, what we really are, could go anywhere. I was not bound to what I first thought. I was bound to my parents' house. I couldn't go anywhere past my parents' house. But then I was on the roof, and then I was exploring local mountaintops, and I realized through my intention, I could literally go to the heavens. And so I would do this every single day. as a little kid. And I even used to have, believe it or not, I used to have a mantra as a little kid when I would explore these higher frequencies and higher realms. I literally used to say to myself, I retain all information and knowledge contained within this realm. And I used to just say that over and over and over as a little kid. And I really felt, Linda, every time I went somewhere with my consciousness and I returned into my body here, I was wiser for it. I literally was remembering and retaining everything. And I also used to say, as bizarre as all this is, I also used to say that if I ever get sick, I'll just heal myself. I've always said that. I said it as a little kid. I think I would have never been able to explain how. I just knew that I knew. And then if you fast forward roughly 40 years or so, give or take, 40 years later, I was in a state, my body was in a state that I didn't have much longer to live. It was totally destroyed, completely paralyzed from the chest down, incredibly sick, and the remembering. And that's the best way I can describe it. It literally came back to me like someone pulled a curtain aside and everything was right there. And instantaneously, what I knew as a kid came back to me. And I literally just started explaining everything. This is how you self-heal. This is how you put your body back together. Access these higher states of consciousness, your energetic templates. By working with your templates, that's what gives form and function to your physical body. And I just literally started recreating myself. And based upon that, that's what the book became. And I've been working with and helping people all over the world almost since I got out of the hospital rehab about almost 7 years ago.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. Your book is beautiful. It's called Supercharged Self-Healing. It's fantastic book with lots of techniques and tips and visualizations to bring healing into your own life. So it took you around 100 days to heal from something that was essentially life-ending.
Yeah, I mean, I was told by every expert. I had fantastic medical professionals. My neurosurgeon was amazing. He did a great job. The infectious disease doctor, everyone top notch, who only wanted the best for me. And they absolutely told me from the get-go that I was crazy, that you cannot overcome these things. You cannot start walking. You are permanently paralyzed. Your spine is crushed. And the chronic diseases that I had are just that. They're chronic. There's no healing from them. I was told that I would have to take medications for the rest of my life. I was told that I would always be permanently paralyzed from the chest down. And I was told this from the get-go. And I said, that's been your experience. And I said, that has nothing to do with me. I understand this on a completely different level. And in the beginning, I mean, they really just thought I was in denial. But the 17th day, I was in the hospital rehab for a little under 3 months. On the 17th day, Linda, and you can see this on a video, and it's timestamped. This is not a spiritual fiction or a medical canard. I made sure to record everything because I knew no one believed that this was possible, but I knew I was going to do this. On the 17th day, you could see the video, I started kicking my leg. And from the 17th day to the 100th day, my healing was not linear. It was quantum. I was doing things the day before I showed no inclination that I could do. And the very next day, I was doing it as if I never lost that functionality. And so it all had to do with the ascended frequencies healing technique, which is what is captured in the book. And by doing these things, I found myself doing these 7 things over and over and over again. I was literally bringing vitality, energy, higher frequential energy, or what I call intelligent energy, into my body. And this higher frequency energy heals, harmonizes, and repairs lower frequency disharmony. And so anyone who was struggling, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, or all of the above, now has instructions, a blueprint on how healing actually works. And nothing is off the table. It doesn't really matter how severe the diagnosis is, because your body, even your physical body, is just energy. And so when we command it properly from a higher state of consciousness, we're really able to do anything with ourselves. And the book lays out exactly how to do it.
So there is no thing that wouldn't benefit from connecting with this energy and harnessing it for healing.
Yeah, correct. And one way that I like to say it is that the soul is the cure for all that ails humanity. So what we really are, okay, what I call sentience, it's a divine intelligence. It's an indirect fractal of source, God, creator. And I say indirect because we are an aspect of our higher self. So we are a projection of our higher self, so therefore indirect. The higher self would be direct. We are our higher self, just less in volume, a projection of it. And so when we tap into that directly, forget about the rational thinking mind. That is so far downstream that has to do with the human form or the physical vehicle. I'm talking about when we tap into what we are directly, and you could just think of meditation. Just think of meditation. When we tap into that directly, we can do anything because we're operating with the unlimited self, the immortal self. And that unlimited and immortal self holds the key to everything because everything is birthed from that. So when you start working with that directly through meditation, there are no more limitations because you're working directly with the source point, you at your core of everything. It's only when you get further downstream in terms of the logic and linearity of the rational thinking mind that we have been convinced that these things are impossible. Well, when you're only using your intellect, it is impossible. You have to go to what gives birth to the intellect. And that would be what we are at our core. And once you do that, there really is no limitation.
What would you say to people who are struggling, I don't know, maybe with cancer, with some kind of really debilitating disease, and they're told as well that there is little or no hope. And, part of their psyche maybe believes that or steps into doubt a bit. Is that going to affect the energy of this consciousness to be able to heal you?
That's a great question. Absolutely. Yes. So I like to say we should never let anything outside of ourself dictate our state of being. Okay. We're in charge of that. So no matter who says it, your doctor, your chiropractor, your husband, your wife, your this, it doesn't matter. We should never let anything or anyone outside of ourselves dictate our state of being. We are in total command and control of that when we take command and control. Now, all I ever heard from the very beginning was, get your house retrofitted, Mr. Spina. You're a paraplegic. That's not going to change. And you're very, very ill. And you have to start taking all these medications, all this insulin, and the laundry list. I never accepted the diagnosis, if that makes sense. I knew what I was experiencing was temporary and what I am is immortal. So I knew through the process of what is spelled out in the book, if I tapped into what I am, it doesn't matter what other people are saying. They're not working in that way. Linda, when you have a different understanding of things and you do different exercises, you get different results, period. And so this was happening. And like I said, by the 17th day, and I started moving my legs and doing, all of a sudden, these people who looked at me like I was nuts were like, wow, yeah, you are going to do it. I said, yeah, I told you I was going to do it. In fact, I'm going to, on the 100th day, watch. Exactly. So we need to give ourselves permission to heal. Now, your doctor might not give it to you, your nurse, your chiropractic, or whoever. It starts with giving yourself permission to heal. That's number one. And the second thing I just want to add, Linda, from a very metaphysical perspective, and metaphysics is real magic, by the way. And I don't mean magic with a C. I'm not talking about three-card Monty. I'm talking about magic with a CK, okay? Magic with a CK, real magic, is simply the accessing and utilization of energies outside of physical sensory perception. Okay? That's what metaphysics are, okay? They're the same thing. Real magic and metaphysics are the exact same thing. Okay, I make no bones about it. I do magic. I teach magic, which is metaphysics. I understand metaphysics because of what's happened with me in terms of the awakening of my higher mind. What we say to ourselves, okay, the words that we say, the self-talk is the spell we put over ourselves. That's why we spell words. Okay, we have to be very, very mindful of our self-talk. Because if Merlin were here, what he would say is you are spelling yourself into a permanent state of ill health. When you keep telling yourself, I can't get better, this is permanent, this is dire diagnosis, you are literally putting a spell over yourself, literally. So that's number one, for everyone to start to look at what is the voice inside their head saying to you, because you're putting a spell. And number two, don't let anyone dictate your state of being. It doesn't matter what the doctor or this person says. I'm not saying completely disregard it. I'm saying, but it's up to you. It's up to you. And now if you're wondering how to do it, how do I really do this? How do I put myself back together? Get the book and follow it step by step by step. It outlines everything.
So much in there to unpack. Definitely agree with your definition of magic. And I'd also like to say it's available to every single person. There's nothing special about anyone that allows them to connect with the magic and you don't get to. So that's one thing I'd like to make perfectly clear. The other thing, and perhaps you might find this too when you're working with people, that in some ways it's harder to move the energy when they have the diagnosis because their mind kind of connects with the story in the morphogenic field.
100% right. Okay. So we are so powerful, whatever we tell ourselves, if we're in complete alignment with it, becomes real. Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to address that, I tell people all the time, stop giving so much weight, so much gravitas to this diagnosis, to some scan that you just got, some blood work that you just got, whatever it is. I'm not saying disregard it because I've never said that. I would never say that. But when you give it so much weight, so much gravitas, you're going to make it impossible to transcend that. Okay. So I never gave much meaning, and my blood work and scans were terrible. I never gave much weight to these things because I know they're just energy. And sentience, what we are, is what commands and manipulates energy. So I knew if I worked with it myself properly, I would just simply change all that. So all of us have to be incredibly mindful about the weight, the permanence, the meaning that we give to a scan, blood work, diagnosis, right? If you can stay detached, and that's a whole nother thing we could probably get into, when you could stay detached and realize you're the awareness of even your body, the awareness of everything, and what you are, that awareness is untouched by all this. What you are is untouched, even by the body mind. Just like the sun, no matter how bad the weather is, rain, sleet, snow, tornado, hurricane, does any of that affect the sun? Does any of that even come close to touching the sun? No. And you are the sun. And it doesn't matter what goes on with the body mind. What you are at your core is completely untouched. And when you start to work with what you are at the core, you can gain complete dominion and command over the body-mind complex. And that is how you put yourself together or back together. And that is also how you achieve authentic self-realization or enlightenment.
Perfect metaphor, RJ, perfect. So you did talk about connecting to that level of consciousness or that energy in order to direct this vital life force. So how would people go about actually connecting?
Right. Okay. Great question. So it starts with what we would just call meditation. Okay. So as the book outlines and goes into great detail, the first, I don't know how many pages, believe it or not, I can't remember, but the beginning of the book goes into great detail about what I call the ego mind identity, the EMI. Okay. That is the false human character that we create that blocks our own access from our own higher mind, our own perfection, and our own divinity. We identify ourselves with the form factor, thoughts, emotions, feelings, and bodily sensations and experiences. We are none of those things. Now, as soon as we identify with those things, we are no longer going to be able to access what we really are. Now, what transcends those things is meditation. Now, there's been countless studies done that meditation proven, even with today's so-called science, proven today that meditation literally changes your DNA. It repairs your cells. It does absolute wonders. They have scans of monks who meditate all day. Their brain literally looks different and is different from everyone else's. Okay, so Linda, it only stands to reason that deeper, more powerful states of meditation only greatly enhance our healing by an order of magnitude. And that is the paradigm shift in terms of supercharged self-healing and what I teach. The level of meditation that we're able to achieve where we can redirect and command our healing, human beings have lost touch with this. Well, not anymore. So all we have to do is learn how to quiet the ego mind identity. Now, the ego mind identity is also, from a scientific perspective, electromagnetic interference. So what we want to do is transcend or move past the electromagnetic interference, or just thought, thinking, and go to your true signal, your true self, your direct consciousness, exactly what you are. And this is where the biggest struggle is that I found. This is where the biggest struggle is for human beings. They can't stop thinking out of a state of panic. That's why we're constantly thinking, trying to control everything. So we can't stop thinking. So I just developed, as you know in the book, what I call magic tricks, real magic, because I do real magic, how to instantaneously meditate. So we can do one right now.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Very simple. All these magic tricks take 1 second because they're real magic. They move energy instantaneously. Okay. So I've worked with people, I don't know, thousands and thousands of people all over the world. And the one common denominator that I hear is that, RJ, I can't meditate. I've tried, and they have. I've tried and tried. I got my headphones, I got my crystals, I got my incense, and this and that. Like, I can't do it. I can't stop my mind. Okay. Everyone who's watching and listening is going to learn how to meditate in 1 second. This is all you have to do. Because what we are at our core, the self, is meditation. And we're going to go right to the self. This is how you do it. Just simply pretend that your two physical eyes are not connected to your brain.
That is so weird and beautiful.
Yeah, you can't think.
Yeah, and you just sink deeply into this, I don't know, blissful abyss.
And that is meditation. Let's look at this paradigm shift for a second, and then we'll go back to how now what we do from there. We went from, I can't meditate, I've tried and tried and tried, to the opposite. You can't think in 1 second. Okay. That's how you know you're working with the truth, because the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. Now, when we start to operate this way, and the book is filled with these magic tricks, 1 second instantaneous meditation. Okay. Now, once we stop the electromagnetic interference, thought, the human character, the ego mind identity, which is a limitation program that runs by thinking. So we do the instantaneous magic trick. It stops that. Okay. Now, once we have this mental clarity and emotional stability, we are now at the starting line. Now, because these meditative magic tricks are instantaneous and require no effort, they can be maintained indefinitely, because you don't have to try to do anything. You're not going to get tired because there's no effort. And that's why I said what you really are. The self is meditation. Now, every moment that you spend in this way, in non-thought and emotional stability, or what we call meditation, every moment that you spend that way, you are healing yourself. Every moment. You're now putting yourself back into the parasympathetic state. Now, when you add on top of that, the techniques, the protocols, the whatever you want to call them in the book, doesn't matter, whatever you want to call them, you start doing it from that place. You're doing it from your core, from your source point. The power that you have, because you're not leaking it and thinking and emoting and doubting and worrying, all that energy you now have back. And now we take that same energy, your power, and direct that exactly to where you need it to go. Whether it's your kidneys, your lungs, your this, your that, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. It doesn't matter if you're permanently paralyzed. It doesn't matter if you have cancer. I've seen it all and helped everybody with everything. It doesn't matter. Everyone can do this, because at the core, everyone biomechanically is the exact same thing at our core. We just have to learn the proper technique and the proper understanding. So once we stop the electromagnetic interference, meditation, we then work from there by doing the ascended frequencies healing technique, which increases the efficacy of our healing by an order of magnitude.
So you were lying in your hospital bed, not able to move, able to go out of the body because you were used to that. But in this meditation, you are like in your body and more than your body at the same time. So is that essentially how you started, is really just spending most of your time and space in this place?
Yeah, and that is the self. Okay, and you spend enough time in the self, you know what happens? Self-realization. which is what enlightenment is. So if you spend enough time only marinating within the self and not thought and emotion, eventually the self is realized, self-realization, authentic enlightenment. Now, authentic enlightenment or self-realization is not the exact same thing as self-healing, literally putting a completely destroyed body back together. It's not the exact same thing, but Linda, the spiritual mechanics or metaphysics or magic are very similar. There's a lot of commingling of the metaphysics that are involved in self-healing and authentic self-realization. They're very similar, not the same, but very similar. The more that we can spend our attention and awareness within the presence of the self, the body automatically starts repairing it. The reason why humanity has lost touch, from my perspective, the reason why humanity has lost touch with self-healing is because everything has become intellectualized and is a thought process. Healing happens before you think. It's before you think. Now, we've heard many times that, we heal through belief. Okay. From my perspective, it's not entirely accurate. It's a step in the right direction. It's not entirely accurate. A fully awakened mind would then not say that that's belief. It's something that's prior to believing. But we have to start to address that the placebo effect is scientific proof that we heal ourselves. We have to start to look at this, okay? So from my perspective, what's really going on is we are giving ourselves permission to heal. Now, what lots of people do, just follow me on this. Lots of people make it about their diet. I'm going to beat cancer. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to juice. I'm going to eat green. I'm going to do, right? Fine. Or other people are like, okay, I'm going to start to develop a world-class meditation practice. I'm going to start meditating 6-8 hours a day. I'm going to start doing yoga. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start traveling to these different, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to go to hyperbaric chamber. I'm starting to take Chinese herbs. I'm doing it. Okay. Listen to what I'm going to say. It's important. All of those things are permission slips, just like the sugar pill. Ultimately, we heal ourselves. And once humanity starts to remember that, they won't go through all this suffering. They won't need to. We heal ourselves. And oftentimes, we are looking for the permission slip, this great doctor, this new tincture, RJ, or whatever it is. I don't care what it is. It's all a permission slip. We heal ourselves. And the placebo effect is scientific proof of that. Now, what I'm interested in offering to humanity is a direct blueprint on how to do this for themselves, because as soon as you do these magic tricks, even like the one that we just did, instantaneously you feel it. Now, when you do that and you start to channel energy through your crown chakra into your body, you feel it the moment that you start to, know that you're healing yourself. You can't even deny it. So when we start to work with ourselves in this way, we are giving ourselves permission to heal ourselves. And this is the real magic, the real metaphysics behind healing. But make no bones about it. We heal ourselves. We all just look for the thing that gives us permission. A tincture, an herb, Chinese medicine expert, RJ, this, that, whatever it is. Ultimately, when we've said, you know what, I'm doing what I need to do to heal, I'm going to get better. And guess what? You do. That is how powerful we actually are.
RJ, in some crazy way, believing in that tincture or that herb or that, sugar pill even gives the condition permission to be. So it's almost an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's exactly right. So when the deeper end of the pool is that there's nothing there at all, and there never has been. So if we look at it this way, this is how I like to explain it. Okay, all sickness, disease belongs to the human character, the ego, mind, identity, the one who has the story of ill health, trauma, etc., etc. I'm not minimizing it. I'm saying the sickness, disease belongs to the human character and the story, the spell that we tell ourselves, right? Okay. What I found is that if you remove the false human character, the ego, mind, identity, its story of ill health goes with it. And now the healing has begun. The people that remove their story, their ego, mind, identity, the body automatically heals itself. Whatever conceptualized reality that we create for ourselves, the body has the tangible experience of that. That's the body-mind connection in one sentence. Most of us realize that we make ourselves sick. We're stressed out, freaked out about whatever. I made myself sick. I've been so run down, so stressed out, so I made myself sick. Correct. Absolutely correct. Linda, the other side of that coin is also true. We create an expanded state of consciousness. The body must have that tangible experience as well. So it works both ways. So when you remove the human character, all ill health belongs to the character. Remove the character, the ill health goes with it. That's how we start to see the interplay between self-healing and self-realization. They're not the exact same thing, but they're absolutely related to one another. We make the mistake of just treating the body, but the same thought process is still there. That's the problem. We have to remove the entire thought process because we're misprogramming ourselves through the thought process, which means the body gets misprogrammed, and the misprogramming is ill health.
That sounds like a momentous task to kind of reprogram the thoughts, but not when you use magic.
Well said. Well said. As we just found, Linda, we can all do magic in 1 second, and it completely stops the thought process. And as we said, the more that we look at these magic tricks, here's another one. Pretend that you just arrived here. No past, no future. Can't think. Thinking is past, future, past, future, past, future. So if you just pretend that you just got here, you can't think.
I think I like that one better than detaching from the eyes because it involved the heart chakra.
Yeah.
I felt myself sink more into the heart chakra. RJ, tell us where we can learn more about your work.
My website is ascendthefrequencies.com, ascendthefrequencies.com. My book, Supercharged Self-Healing, is available on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, etc.
Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much, Linda.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com and learn what energy medicine can do for you. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.